Hey everybody, it's Chris back again here for today's live, and as usual, Sarah is here with us. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit different than we have in the past. We're going to be talking about a refrigerator, basic looking refrigerator like everybody has in their home. And this is just the basic two-door. This one happens to be a Samsung. The only reason we really wanted to take some time today to talk about this particular one because it has a different feature. I call it kind of a hybrid. Samsung has a term, dual zone cooling. Anyway, cool part of this fridge. Get it? Cool part, fridge. As you know, this design with a top mount freezer. This is your freezer. This is your fridge. This machine has the ability to become an all refrigerator. In other words, you can set the controls so that not only does the fridge run at refrigerator temperatures, but the freezer does too. So for those of you who are in the need of having an all refrigerator, which comes in really handy when you have a bunch of company coming to visit and you need that extra space for all the things you need when company arrives, especially beverages. So you need more fridge space. This machine allows you to do that. And then when you don't have that high demand for fridge space, you can switch it back so that this becomes freezer. And it's really cool the way they do it. Now, the freezer in this one is not bad size. Oh, Sarah, did you leave these in here?
Spooky season's coming.
Spooky season. Okay, so to look at this is just a regular looking freezer. In fact, this fridge is, I don't like to use the word plain, but it's kind of plain. Like there's no real great option as far as racking or anything. There is a shelf, a glass shelf that has two positions, which is great. This one doesn't come with an ice maker, but you can get it. It's an optional feature for it. It easily fits in mounts. The instructions are actually in the owner's manual for how to install the ice maker, so it is an after purchase item. So if you want to put an ice maker with it, you can. It already has an inlet valve in the back that's in. The piping and tubings, everything's there, so it's not a big deal to put an ice maker in it. So it's kind of neat from that fashion. The shelving is, it has nice strong bin shelving, but they're not real fancy. This is just a really good utility style refrigerator. And in the lower section, which is your typical refrigerator,
Chris.
Sarah, how many times have I told you? Anyway, we're just having a little fun today. But getting back to the refrigerator, its layout is a little different, only in the fact that there's no controls in here. There is a pantry shelf that goes here. You normally used to find those down in the lower section. We've got two different meat produce bins, both with humidity controls, which is kind of nice. And again, basic glass shelves that can be adjusted. Each shelf has its own dual spot you can put it, so you can adjust as you need to. And of course, like most Samsung products and new fridges today, they have beepers to tell you you've left the door open for too long. So we'll close one up. The other nice thing with this style refrigerator is it has reversible doors, which is common to see, and you don't really get a lot of option. You have to sort of buy some model of fridges with either left-hand or right-hand door, but this is fully reversible, and again, the instructions are with it, so you can have the swing go the other way. But if you do it, you have to have them both swinging the same way. You can't have one door swing one way and one door swing the other way. Although I don't know why you'd want to do that, but it would be funny to see.
Keep you on your toes.
Keep you on your toes. So if we decided to take this product and have it become an all refrigerator, it's pretty neat. So right now we can adjust our freezer temperatures like you would any other fridge freezer. We can change your fridge temperatures, all good. If you have the ice maker, you can use the power freeze so that it'll just come down in temperature really quick, ideal for when you first install your ice maker. It has a power cool that you can use when you load your fridge up with a whole lot of product. You need it not to be cycling. You need it to run hard and long in order to get everything cooled down. It has that option. But if we want to make this an all refrigerator, it's really easy. You just take the button where it says freezer convert for 3 seconds. We just hold that. And there.
That little light says fridge.
Yeah.
So now it just lit up on us.
So the freezer is now in fridge mode. So whatever temperature you have set for the fridge, because the freezer does not adjust anymore because it's in fridge mode, the temperature in here will be the same as down below. So that's a lot of extra space you can have when you're in that time when you need more fridge space without having to have another appliance. So it's kind of neat to see. There's always been sort of that all refrigerator out there in the market before. They had some issues where if you took that all refrigerator and decided to make it a garage fridge, you would have a lot of problems in the wintertime with any product you had in there. Just because the thermostat couldn't understand that it was out in a cold environment during the winter, so it wouldn't come on and you'd lose everything. So this is kind of the ideal answer. What I do want to do is just show you how it accomplishes this, because it's pretty neat when you stop and think about one unit that can become 2 different type of appliances, a freezer or a fridge. And they do a couple of neat things. So in today's world where we have a lot more electronics being involved in our appliances, which has turned out to be a really good thing, because it wouldn't be possible to do what this fridge does without the technology that's been developed. And of course we start seeing a lot more circuit boards. Now of course I've taken the screws out. This doesn't normally just lift up like that.
So easy.
Yeah. So this is just your touch board. This is just a user interface.
It's all the buttons you were playing around with.
So that's got the buttons, it's got your lights. The beeper, of course, is up in this area as well. It also has the little cover for when you go to move your doors to swing the other way. You get this hinge cover that's over to make this a little bit more attractive. You wind up using this one on this side. So everything's built into it. It has its own sensor here for letting it know what the room temperature is. So that kind of board in there that does that. Now this fridge is really a low energy use refrigerator. It's an R600 refrigerant that's in it, so it's got a little different compressor. It runs on very little electricity. It's actually a DC motor inside that compressor with a controller. So again, it's designed to use very, very little electricity. It's about 3 amps. When you used to think about the older refrigerators that would be running very close to 15 amps whenever they were on, this is certainly a huge savings in electricity in how they run. So what you find inside, something like this. I got a couple screws I'm going to take out and show you. Yeah, lovely noise.
At least it doesn't sing a song like the laundry machines do.
Yes. And you'd be amazed at how many people, when I've been in doing service calls, ask, can you please turn that off? Some machines will give you the ability to turn it off like your washer does. Some of these ones from the refrigerators, there's no way other than cutting the speaker out of it. Isn't recommended. Okay. So that cover that came off is where your ice maker would mount if you purchase the additional ice maker. Now, something to keep in mind is this fridge does not have a water filtering system. So if you did want to have an ice maker and you wanted to use filtered water, you can buy an exterior filter system that will go with the fridge. It is a separate unit. It's not part of the fridge. It just goes in line from your water supply to the fridge. But with that cover out of the way, I'm now able to remove this back cover. And there's actually a screw behind here and behind it there that I've already removed. So now we just need to pull the back cover off. I know that sounds horrible, but that's okay. That's the joys of plastic. So there's what you'll find inside. This is the evaporator for your freezer section. Pretty common in any type of refrigerator. There's an evaporator. Some have two, but this is your main one. Your defrost heater is down here. And we have a fan, of course, here that circulates the air within this compartment. Now, one thing that's a little different from the older refrigerators is they would typically have all the cold air being cooled by this evaporator in the freezer. They'd use a fan to push that air down into the fridge section, and they would control the temperature through some sort of a dampener. So, you know, anywhere from 0 to 100% or 80% of the air was staying in the freezer or going down below. But this product actually has another evaporator down in the refrigerator section, and I'm going to show that here shortly. So some interesting technology's gone into this guy. I'll just leave him sitting like that for now. Down here, we'll get these shelves out of the way.
Very upset we're keeping the doors open this long.
Yeah. So I removed the screws again from this cover.
So that's
That I'm just going to move away so you can see it. There's the second evaporator.
Let's see if I can get low enough to get a visual. There we go.
So this refrigerator has two evaporators, the big one we saw from the freezer, and this one for the refrigerator compartment. As well as we have a fan for circulating the air.
Back of the cover, just like the freezer.
Yeah. So it's got its own fan for circulating the air here. It has a temperature sensor attached to this housing. Oh, it's now calling for that air to be circulated.
Not sure if the mic's picking it up, but it's making a noise that's
Yeah.
not beeping.
Yeah, and it's kind of neat. These fans are almost like computer fans. If you ever had a computer apart and seen the fan that they use for cooling, these fans are very simple that use very little energy, low voltage, low current draw. Again, making this fridge, and most of the fridges you see today use these, make them very, very energy efficient. So that's what's inside. I'm going to show you what's in the back side of this guy.
No.
In fact, I'll unplug them. I'm going to unplug them in order to show you things that make it work. I left one screw in this panel just so easy for me to take off and show you. Normally there's three. Now this panel typically would only be accessed by a service technician, but this is the brains of this device, of this appliance. The little board we saw up front was simply a user interface touchpad, but all the microprocessing and control of all the energy components are all run from these two boards. And you'll see by the small wiring that everything is low voltage. Low voltage, low current draw means you're having to cool your product with much less electricity than you would have go back 10 years ago. They just make them more and more energy efficient. But we're also adding more electronic components. So we've got relays here for turning on compressors, ICs for turning on the fans. There's some fuse protection on this power board. So this is where your power is coming in through your cord, and then it's being adjusted and changed into DC for running different components, such as your compressor, which is down here in the bottom. Now these two lines that you see here are for your ice maker if you decide to put one in. The blue line with the end free is the one that it would connect to your house water supply. So it goes down, it goes into the valve, and then when the ice maker would call for water, it would open up this valve and the water would go back up the white tube and go in to fill the ice maker. So it's all pre-set up for an ice maker if you did want to put one in. So here's our compressor. This is basically an electric motor running a pump inside this metal can. And compressors have been in refrigerators for many, many years. That's how the beast works. This is what takes the refrigeration gas, circulates it through, but it also brings it up to a higher pressure so that when it goes through this condenser, it changes it to a liquid, and then we're able to begin the whole process of doing refrigeration. Of course, there's a cooling fan. In days of old, this style condenser would be mounted on the back of the refrigerator, and it was simply cooled by the amount of air just migrating up behind the refrigerator.
And are these the coils we're supposed to keep dust and fur free?
Well, this particular system does have the potential to actually pull some dust and usually pet fur in, and it can get into these coils over time. It can actually start to restrict the airflow. So a real good maintenance idea on any refrigerator that has this type of setup, and that's the most common setup you're finding today, is the enclosed back and a fan in here with the condenser. So the fan will pick up any kind of debris, pull it through, and then we're talking dust, hair, whatever, and push it into the condenser, and eventually this will get plugged up. If it gets plugged up, it'll still work, but it reduces the efficiency of this being able to be cooled. And if it gets too hot, then the pressures in the system start to rise. And when pressure rises, it creates a strain on your compressor. So now you're starting to get into a situation where you're starting to shorten the lifespan of the compressor. So you have a compressor that should last you anywhere from 10 to 15, 20 years, that you can actually be shortening that down to 5 or 6 if you don't take the time to semi-regular clean this out. Now, it's a bit of a pain to have to pull your fridge out and take the back off and vacuum that out, but it does make a difference. It's important to do.
I suppose losing your entire fridge full of groceries due to it failing is a bigger pain than some annual cleaning.
Absolutely, and when you think of what could happen, and you're right, you could lose all your product inside, and that product's not getting any cheaper these days. So you're talking hundreds of dollars inside, you're talking hundreds of dollars for a part that would have to be replaced. And in this particular style of refrigerator, this is the newer refrigerant, the R600. It's not something that just anybody can do. It requires a technician that's trained in R600, as well as having the proper tools in order to be able to work with it.
Now, with the hybrid style and switching back and like going from freezer to fridge mode, does that put any extra wear and tear on the cooling components of the fridge?
That's a great question. So what they basically do is they have a little valve here, and you'll see it has one bigger line going in and two smaller lines. So one of these small lines is going to that freezer evaporator. The other one is going to the refrigerator evaporator. So this little switching device will turn so that the refrigerant is being pushed into one evaporator or the other. So it's really not an additional strain. It's just going to balance out. I'm going to just do the same amount of work for one evaporator, and then when the other area calls for cooling, it's now going to just switch over and use that same amount of effort to push the refrigerant into the other section. So this style of hybrid, no, it doesn't cause any extra at all. These things are pretty smart in the way they do it. In days of old, you would open up your freezer door, warm air would rush in, um, the fridge would turn on the compressor, and it would do that right away. So every time you open the door, the compressor would have to come on and run, and it would run for 15, 20 minutes to cool it back down. These guys are using technology now that if you open that freezer door and warm air rushes in, this temperature sensor says, oh, it's starting to warm up. I need some cooling. So it'll turn on the fan, not the compressor. And it'll circulate the cold air that's on your product and around it, and that'll start to cool the freezer down. So it may not even need the compressor. But if the demand is high and there's not a lot of product in your freezer, it says, oh, we need more cooling. Circulating air just isn't enough. Now we're going to turn on the compressor. And same thing for the fridge section. It works independently with its own sensors. It will say, you know what? I need to get some more cooling because somebody just took a can of soda out or something like that. And now it's just going to turn on the fan just to circulate air. And if the temperature still continues to rise, then it'll turn the compressor on. So your compressor runs far less than you realize. You may hear your fans kicking on and you think, oh, this thing's running all the time, but really it's not. The fans might be, and they draw very little electricity. This compressor is only on a third of the time that it would have been compared to the old style. So a lot of technology, a lot of components that other fridges in days of old didn't have, but those older fridges cost you a ton of money to operate, and these don't. And these keep really good temperatures. Old style refrigerators with regular thermostats, their temperature had a huge variance from when they turned on to when they shut off. These ones, it's very, very close. It's usually within about 5 or 6 degrees from when it says, oh, I need to cool down, to when it says, yep, we're just where we need to be. So they're very energy efficient, very good at keeping your product at the temperature you want. There's a lot of good to the stuff today. They're quiet in how they operate. They're very, very quiet. And again, cheap on electricity.
So all kinds of extra bonuses without extra effort on the user's part.
That's right. A lot of bonuses. The only downsides you tend to get is when you start to have to add additional components, such as, an extra valve, a fan motor here, a fan motor up there, a fan motor down there. We're adding more components that can, over time, need to be replaced compared to the old style design. So it's a trade-off. You're going to save a lot of money. You're going to be more efficient, better temperature control, more space inside than what the other ones used to have because the insulation was so thick in them. So there's the trade-off. You go from something that had fewer parts that probably lasted longer, but cost you a fair bit of money. Whereas these ones have a low expense in running, but do have more components that can potentially be an issue at some point.
So what is most likely for a homeowner to need to replace? Like they don't have to worry about the refrigerant line. That's all a professional. But are you going to have to replace fans or motors or?
Yep. Fans, valves, motors, control boards, all of those are just a matter of once you know for sure that's the part you need, you can simply go online with your model number, do the search on it, find the part that you feel you need, and order it up, and it'll be shipped right to your door. And as scary as this might look, if you were involved in doing that, but if you look, everything has, easy to disconnect.
Just little wire harnesses.
Yeah. So they just pull off. They can only go on one way in one place, so it's not anything that that the homeowner can't do. It's just a screw that holds the board in place. For here, if I was changing this, I would simply take a picture of this, So I know exactly what harness is in what place, even though none of them can be interchanged. But it just makes it easier when you go to put it back together. But there's nothing on this, any of those fan motors, valves, any of that stuff. Anybody can change those. One of the other things I really like about these, the other thing I like is these are light. Compared to the older fridges that you're just about giving yourself a hernia to move them, is door gaskets. Door gaskets on any refrigerator are a normal wearing part. They open, they close. Over time, they can get a little stiff and brittle. And at one time, it took a fair bit of time and technician to replace a gasket. These fridges today, most of them, have pull-out gaskets. The gasket simply has a rib that goes into a channel.
Just a little groove.
Yeah. So you would order your gasket. When it came, you would just pull the old one off, bring the new one in position. You might want to warm it up a little bit in the room so that it can get soft and pliable. And then you just push that rib into the channel. And you've just replaced your gasket. Either the refrigerator gasket or the freezer gasket, they're the same. If you have a 3-door in most of the fridges today, they use the same style of gasket. So no reason a homeowner can't take that on. Because sometimes these get torn. You know, things can happen to gaskets. It's just natural. But if you get a gasket that's torn and it's not sealing well, it's costing you money. So it's not a big deal. You gotta order up the part, we'll send it right to you. And again, it's just when you're pulling it off and pushing it on. And if you're ordering through us, you'll find in most cases when you're looking at a part, gasket, whatever, there should be a picture of it, as well as typically you'll find a video showing you how to replace it. And from the site, we can tell you if we have it in stock and get it shipped directly to your home.
And they're all the original equipment manufacturers. So if you have a
Yes.
Samsung fridge and you need a Samsung door gasket, you're getting that exact make and model.
You are, that's exactly right. And that's important. You're getting an actual Samsung gasket that's been built to the exact same standard as this part, so that you're not getting something that may look like it, but it's actually stiffer. It doesn't seal as well. It doesn't last as long. So yes, you might find some of these parts a little bit cheaper from other places, but they either aren't going to fit properly, and if they do fit, they're not going to last as long. I've seen too many cases where somebody tried to save a few extra dollars by buying a non-OEM part and wind up having to replace it twice as often as this gasket would normally have to be. So you saved a little money once, but when you had to do it twice, you didn't. And if the problem with the gasket was bad enough or another component was bad enough, if you've lost all your temperature in your product as a result, it's just cost you a lot more money. So I'm a firm believer in using the part that the manufacturer designed for it. And if the manufacturer decides at some point that they need to make a change to that part to enhance it, make it better, or make it better for the next lineup of fridge that uses a similar door or whatever, then you're going to be getting the latest upgrade as well. So it's just the better value for your money.
And knowing the guarantee that it's going to fit is
that's right.
A big reassurance.
Yep. Yeah, you can do a lot of harm trying to make something fit. So that's kind of a cool fridge. The fact that you can take this and have all this space become all refrigerator, or when you want to, you can have it work as a normal refrigerator and freezer, as well as add an ice maker to it. So I didn't know if, how many people out there know that some of these style of refrigerators are out there. There's actually a couple out there as well that you can convert over to becoming an all freezer as well, or an all refrigerator. This one's just the freezer section that changes. But there's a lot of cool stuff coming out in the marketplace as they learn with technology what they can do with them. And yeah, pretty neat. So we're going to try and keep showing you some of the new stuff that's out there in the marketplace, and help you understand how they work and whether maybe it's a good fit for what you want to do in your home.
I guess having that flexibility for whatever your family or lifestyle needs.
Yeah.
Do you need more space for fresh fruit and veggies, or do you need more space for ice cream?
Exactly. And this fridge isn't for everybody. Um, you could have a dozen people in this room right now and would say, I have absolutely no need to have this thing have to be an all refrigerator. But there is going to be the person who has the need, and instead of having to go out and buy that all refrigerator, there is another option. So they sell this fridge as just a normal refrigerator, your typical fridge, your typical freezer, but they do make available this one that's that little bit of a hybrid that just fits that little niche market.
Yeah.
So it's cool when you see the stuff that's out there.
It doesn't look like we had any questions come in, so seems like you did a great job explaining everything. No questions from the crowd.
Well, that's good. When we do these lives, anybody who's watched them before probably already knows that, we'll try to answer any of your questions, whether it's on a product like this or an appliance in your home that may be giving you trouble, or you're thinking about buying a particular appliance and you want to have a little information as far as serviceability, reliability, features, or just, personal preferences. So if you have anything like that on any of our lives, or you want to just, take the opportunity through our social media sites to send in a question, we'll do everything we can to answer for you.
And if you're watching today, you're going to be the first to learn that in 2 weeks on our next stream, we're going to be giving away an Echo chainsaw to anyone who joins us and submits a question. So that's your heads up.
Yeah.
This time, 2 weeks from now.
A little sneak peek. And it's not just me you're going to have to listen to. Sarah's going to be here, of course, make sure that everything's working smoothly and in line and helping to catch your questions for us to answer. But for the Echo chainsaw, we're actually going to have joining us virtually is a sales service rep from Echo. So he'll be there to answer any of your questions that you may have regarding Echo products, Echo design. We'll be talking about some of the history of Echo and how they came to be and where they are now, and some of the innovative stuff that they're working on. So it should be a really, really good session. We hope very much that you'll join us. And, if you think of it and you think you have some friends that might enjoy having the opportunity to see and hear some of what he may have to say, and get any of your questions answered for either appliance I'll look after or anything that's lawn and garden, between himself and I, we'll try and get your questions answered all the same.
Right. All
All right.
Everyone have a good weekend. We'll see you in 2 weeks for the next
2 weeks' time. Thanks very much. Take care.